Today we're going to step back to the 1980s, this old school Crutchfield catalog, and look at this product. But before we do that, we do have to venture back to 2014 so I can tell you a little bit about it. What's up, guys? Big D Wiz, oldschoolstereo.com. Have a little interesting surprise for you here today. It was a surprise to me as well. My buddy Todd at Electronic Recyclers, I'm going to put his website here on the screen so you can see it. Ran across some of these items and thought these might be good items to send to Big D at Old School Stereo. As you can see, we have an Alphasonic A255 amplifier. This is 55 watts per channel in stereo, 110 watts per channel, 4 ohms or 8 ohms. It's a nice little amp. We have a passive Alphasonic PEQ7 7-band equalizer with front and rear fader. We have some Magnadyne 3-way passive crossovers, which is pretty unique. I'm not sure, I guess these were designed for car audio, but don't see a whole lot of 3-way crossovers for car audio. But here's the real interesting item. Amplifier here, a linear power model 901, 90 watts RMS. This is 45 watts per channel at 4 ohms. It's not bridgeable. It's not stable at 2 ohms, but it is a vintage, sometime in the mid-80s, I think, linear power amplifier. As you can see, it's kind of dusty. Everything is, which I love that because it gives me the chance to, kind of show it off and then clean it up real quick, which is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to talk about it some more. So I'll be right back. So here's the linear power 901. I cleaned it up a little bit. It's not 100% clean, but it's way cleaner than it was. And it looks like it was probably in a dusty environment because it had just some dust on it, but really it's not in bad shape at all. It's pretty clean. Not a lot of scrapes and scratches. There's a few on the heatsink fans there. But this amp is funny. It reminds me of the Soundstream MC500 with these huge heatsink fins. A lot of cooling going on there. I'll flip it around and show you the other side. And didn't want to wipe that sticker off too bad, but it shows you the input left and right, and also has the little gain adjustment. This is the old school style amps with the Molex plug. It's got the power, ground, and turn on that one, and it's got your left and right speaker outs on the other. And probably saw the bottom already. This is really slick. It's hard to believe this is still intact, because in most amps this age that have been used, you will not see anything on the bottom like this. See, linear power 901 tells you 4 ohms only, do not ground speaker terminals. Shows you how to hook it up. Tells you about the colors, and yes, it was burned in. That means it was tested and it's ready to go. So the question is, does it still work? And I don't know that, but I will hook it up and try it, and we will find out. Before we try the amp out to see if it works, I want to show you a newer version here, the Linear Power LP2250. Check a link in the video description. You can see Linear Power still has a website. They still sell amps. Now let's talk about the history of Linear Power. According to Ray Rayfield, who's the current owner, the previous name of the company, Der Schmeg, started in 1968, created the first switching car audio amplifier, and was changed to Linear Power in 1975. Now, I sent this video to Ray Rayfield, and he sent me some really cool pictures of the Der Schmeg amp from way back in the late 60s to the early 70s. Here you can see the model that eventually became the Linear Power 30A, which was their first model amplifier. I did confirm the 1975 thing by the Linear Power website here using archive.org. Peter and Ruth Werbach started Schmeg Electronics and changed the name to Linear Power in 1975 in the gold country of Northern California. Linear Power now, though, is based in Mississippi and again owned by Ray Rayfield. Now let's pull out the vintage Crutchfield catalog fall-winter of 1980. We will see the Linear Power amps listed here, including the 901, variable input sensitivity, thermal overload protection, delayed turn-on, Power output 50 watts per channel. And here's the price, $179 back then, which equates to $660 in 2023, inflation adjusted. Moving forward just 1 year to 1981, here in the summer-fall version of the Crutchfield catalog, we'll turn to the page of amplifiers. We'll see Concord, some other brands. Also, here's a linear power, the 901. The price is now $194. So prices have gone up, and that accounts for around $650 in 2023 money. And they also had a 1501, which is a bigger amp. The 901, according to the manual, 45 watts by 2 at 12.5 volts, greater than 95 dB signal-to-noise ratio, 12 hertz to 150 kilohertz frequency response. Now, almost 9 years later, let's take a closer look at this amplifier and see what it's all about.
Several bad puns later.
Spinning the amp like a DJ spins his LPs. Let's take a closer look at the amp here. Fly up so you can see the one side where you see the linear power, model 901, 90 watts RMS. And we'll turn it. You can see there's not really much here on the other side. It is kind of two-toned with the black anodized and also the silver on the front. And on the back, it's black as well. Here you can see the wires are coming out and going directly into small little terminal blocks. It does have two different connectors. One here on the left is for the power, ground, and remote turn on. Seems to be around 12 gauge wire for the power and ground. And on the opposite side, we have the speaker output, left and right speaker output. These are approximately like 18 gauge, I think, wire. And here you can see the Molex plug here that plugs in. These actually come out as well. They're a little bit difficult on this amp, but I got them loose so I could show you guys how they come out. And that way makes it easier later in the video when I open the amp up so you can see the inside. Also here in the middle, you'll see the left and right RCA inputs as well as the sensitivity adjustment. And on the very bottom of the amp, you also can see some pretty cool stuff here. You can see a diagram. It shows you the colors of the wires, tells you what to do, what not to do, tells you don't use oversized fuses, 4 ohms minimum. Also, it was tested by number 1 and inspected by number 3. As far as dimensions go, 7.2 for the width, 4.2 for the height, and 6.7 for the depth. If you stick around to the very end of the video, we'll show you the internals of the amplifier. But before we do that, let's hook it up to the SMD, the More Engineering Amplifier Dyno. Find out how much power this amplifier puts out. On the left, you'll see the power output. In the middle, the ohm load. The right, the voltage of the dyno. Will also have a remote clamp so that we can calculate efficiency of this Class AB amp.
This here's my favorite part.
Since the amp is rated at 4 ohms minimum, I thought I'd do 8 ohm tests and 4 ohm tests, and also low voltage and higher voltage. So we're doing around 13 volts here at 8 ohms certified. We got 26 and 24, so about 25 watts per channel. Then we're going to reset it here for the dynamic test. We actually did the uncertified test too, but it was so close. I'll show you in the results. Just don't want to waste your time watching the dyno give almost exacting results. 28 and 27 at 13 volts. Efficiency, we measured 56%, which is expected, Class AB amp. Now, let's crank up that voltage a little bit. Try the 8 ohm test again, a little over 14 volts, and see what we get. And you can see 34 and 31 watts. And now we're going to try the dynamic burst and getting up there. 34 watts, 35 watts, right at 14.5 volts, 35 watts per channel. Now, what about the efficiency? Did it get any better with more input voltage? Yes, it did. 60% efficient at 8 ohms. Now, let's do 4 ohm stereo. It's rated 45 watts by 2 at 12.5 volts. So we're going to be a little bit over 12.5 volts and not quite make that 45. We got 40 and 36 at 12.85. It is important to know this amp is over 40 years old and has not been recapped or serviced in any way. So the fact it even works is amazing. And here it gets right at rated power dynamically. 44 watts per channel, 12.95. Efficiency, we measured 47% at 4 ohm stereo. Now we're going to crank up the voltage once again. Try it in the mid 14s. closer to what you'd see today in a vehicle. And certified, yes, we got 50 and 45, so average of about 47 watts per channel, so it did its rated power. Uncertified to clipping, we noticed it didn't work. I'm like, oh yeah, oops, must have popped that fuse. Somebody put in a 10 amp fuse and it really needs a 20 amp fuse according to the manual. So we put the proper fuse size in and ran the test again. We got 54 and 51 watts at 4 ohms, 14.14 volts. Then we'll try the dynamic, and oops, I forgot to zoom in there on the previous test, but you can see here, zoom in. And yeah, we're mid 50 watts, about 56 watts per channel, 14.22 dynamically, and efficiency at 4 ohm at 14 volts is about 51%. Next up, I did a results page here so you can see all the different results, 8 ohms, 4 ohms, 13 volts, and 14 volts. You can pause this if you want to see all the tests, including clipping. Next up, we're going to hook it up to some speakers and try the sound quality of this 42-year-old car audio amplifier. Baby, you give me ice and fire. Gotta have some smoke jacket. Let's open up this Linear Power 901 and find out what makes it tick, what's inside. After the 75 screws, we have made it inside the amplifier. See the single-sided circuit board here. Also the other goodies, including 50 volt 470 microfarad Nippon Chemicon, very nice capacitors, as well as 16 volt 2200 microfarad there for the power supply. This amp uses Motorola TO3 output devices as well as for the power supply section. And according to Linear Power, at the time this amp was made, they're expensive and they are the best, period, talking about the TO3 transistors. So there you have it. Again, this amp is over 40 some years old, never been recapped. It was impressive that it even worked, but it survived the dyno, pretty much did its rated power. So I give it massive 2 thumbs up. This was lots of fun. I'm glad the amp worked. Make sure you check out linearpower.com for their new products. Big D, till next time, out of here.